Amanda DiVito-Parle. Welcome to my podcast, At the Kitchen Table. It was a play on the kitchen table you and I visit a lot when we go meet with people. And so, our jobs are to guide, inspire, connect our clients. And so that was how this little endeavor of ours has bloomed. I have Julie Peter with Angel Care Corp.
Yes.
And tell us, Julie, what does Angel Care do?
I am a private fiduciary. That is my official title. I'm a professional power of attorney and conservator for the elderly. I handle their business matters. And if people don't have anyone to help them with their medical, and I'm power of attorney, I also help them with their medical bills, medical items as well.
So it's personal and medical fiduciary management.
Yes.
Of the
elderly. Yes.
And mostly the elderly that are either alone or where they have people who are around them but are either incapable or unwilling.
Right. So most of my clients have never been married, never had kids, have no family, or they have family that have taken advantage of them, unfortunately. So I do some fraud investigation as well. But mostly my people don't have anyone to take care of them. I also specialize in Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm Alzheimer's certified. So that's my specialty, is to work with people that no longer have the cognitive ability to handle their own business matters.
Yeah. And so this is fine points like making sure their bills are paid to substantial points like dealing with Medicare, Social Security, and
yes,
a variety of other...
Moving them from their home safely into an environment that they're safe in, and then going in and doing clean up, clean out, estate sale, gather their personal paperwork so it's shredded properly, doing estate sale, selling their home, investing their money, moving them, just everything. I call myself a professional daughter.
Yes. And this is how we met, in the capacity where you were acting as professional daughter for a client, a mutual client. And so the piece of real estate needed to be sold at that time.
Yes.
And this was the first I had encountered this professional daughter fiduciary role. And it seems to me there is just an unbelievably huge need.
There is a huge need out there.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't advertise, and I still get calls all the time for people that need my services.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love what I do. I love being the compassionate, the advocate for them, the little mother hen, because they are almost reverting back to being children again.
Yeah, right. There's a real caretaking element to this, for sure.
And there's a trust element as well. Yeah. Just gaining their trust, coming alongside them at first and just letting them get to know me and my core values and what I do.
So take me back a little bit. Where are you from? And then how did you come through? I know you've told me before you have sort of a paralegal background. So walk me through, how did you come to this place of owning your own business?
First of all, I was born and raised in Wyoming in a very small town, so I'm kind of a get-her-done kind of girl. I went to a Christian college in Nampa, Idaho, and then I came to Denver to take care of my grandfather who was failing. And then my grandmother who had Alzheimer's, and I got very intrigued with Alzheimer's. And so I back then I started classes to become Alzheimer's certified. And then when my mom got sick and she was dying of cancer, I started this full time. My boys were in junior high and elementary and junior high at the time, so I was a little bit more flexible with my schedule and with them. And started my business doing this. I worked for an attorney. I was a paralegal for 22 years. I was working for an attorney that was elderly, and he had a lot of elderly clients that I did this for, and thought I could do this on my own. My neighbor was the deputy director of adult protection at the time, and she introduced me to adult protection. And I got to know the social workers at adult protection at that time. And then referrals from all different sources have come in from there.
Yeah, well, and it was almost that you were led into a path with these people that surrounded themselves around you that, showed you this opportunity.
Right.
I mean, having a neighbor that was, doing that, it just, almost opens your eyes to something.
Yes.
Yeah. So you work as a paralegal, and you realize there's this tenaciousness about doing that kind of work.
Right.
And then you have this encounter with a neighbor who shows you this adult protection, and you see this business in front of you. At what point did you say, like, I've got to do this on my own? I
6 months.
Yeah, it was fast.
After I went on my own.
Get me out. Well, so what happened to the attorney?
I had to quit my attorney because I got so busy. And so I had to quit the work that I was doing for the attorney and went to start doing this full time because I still wanted to be a mom. My kids were still needing me. So this company allowed me to be flexible. I could go and take my kids to school every day and I could pick them up. I could go every baseball game that they do. I was the president of Boosters for 3 years. I was able to be flexible because I can control my hours.
Right.
And as I got busier, then I just started using contract people to help me fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So the source of your business comes from a variety of places, but mostly how do people find a professional fiduciary? I no longer get any referrals from adult protection. So now I have a lot of resources. I know a lot of people, a lot of attorneys, police. I have 2 retired police officers that work for me. Police, social workers, home health care agencies, hospice, nursing homes,
assisted livings, a friend of a friend.
Real estate agents.
Real estate agents.
Yeah.
I have a lot of referrals from several different real estate agents that I use. It's endless where the resources come from and where the referrals come from at this point.
Yeah.
At this point I don't contact them, but I'm wanting to get back busy again.
It's a long relationship that you have with your client, right? So the client is the elderly person.
Right.
And they can live for a year or 10 from the time that they hire you.
Or 20.
Or 20. Uh-huh.
I mean, I have some that I have had for 18 years. I also have a lot that die. I had one that passed away last week. So there, you just make sure that when you get on board at the beginning that you have all of their ducks in a row. Make sure that you know what's going to happen when they pass, because you never know when that's going to happen.
So probably a lot of people who are listening to this have parents and or aunts and uncles or whatever that will eventually need somebody to do this kind of work that you do professionally.
Right.
And I wonder, along the way, you've probably learned some of the biggest traps for when people die. What are some of the biggest mistakes they make that they don't leave behind properly set up?
Not having a current will.
Okay.
If you die now intestate without a will, there's
intestate means you die and you don't have a will.
Correct.
Okay.
Intestate means you have a will. The laws have changed recently, and everybody just needs to get a will. And then
get a will. I'd like you to say this again. Everybody needs to get a will.
Everybody needs to get a will.
Right. What if they don't own anything anymore?
It doesn't matter. I think that a will and having someone appointed as your personal representative to be able to carry out your wishes after you pass, even though you may not have anything, I think having a personal representative, someone that's going to do the few little things if there's only a few little things, but having someone appointed. So if I have a client that has a will and their power of attorney or their personal representatives have both passed, then we do a codicil. We make sure that we have someone that can replace them. So have a will. Other things, make sure you do have your power of attorneys in place for when you're alive, because that dies when the person dies.
Power of attorneys would be for financial and medical mostly, right?
Right, correct. Okay. And when they have capacity, it's easier to have those power of attorneys in place then.
What you're saying is when somebody is in sharp enough health, they can sign power of attorneys for medical for their son and financial for their daughter or whatever they feel is best for them. And if they can sign those POAs while they're in sharp enough health to be considered fit to sign those, then they've got some direction working.
Right. So the difference between a power of attorney and conservator is the power of attorney makes that decision themselves, and conservator means they no longer have capacity to make that decision, and it's court appointed. You have to go in front of a judge to have that appointed. That's the difference between the power of attorney. They do pretty much the same thing, but one has capacity knowing they need help, knowing that. Right.
So your power of attorney is when they're getting old and need help, but still capable of making decisions. The conservatorship is when they're getting old, need help, and not capable of making decisions.
Correct.
And then once they die, that's where the next status would kick in about how their estate is represented. Either sometimes people have trusts, and then their heirs become trustees. You're grimacing about a trust. Sometimes when they die with a will, somebody becomes a personal representative, and that's the other way somebody can resolve a dead person's estate, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
You're
Okay,
grimacing
back
over
to-
trust, though.
I want to just follow up on what else to do. Make sure that you know what your burial plan looks like. Have
Okay.
a pre-need prepaid burial plan, or know whether you invoice that to your loved ones or write it down. Do you want to be buried in the ground, or do you want to be cremated? Do you want, if you have a burial plot, make sure the family knows about that, and make sure that family knows if you have a pre-need burial plan. I cannot tell you how many clients that I have done the funeral for, and then later I learned that they had a pre-need burial plan that would have paid for it all.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So,
And the best way for people to do this is to like seriously sit with their parents and say, like, we got to sit down and put it all in one place.
find out all the important things. Find out where they keep their important paperwork. Where's your marriage license? Where's your DD-214 if you were
What's
a
a DD?
veteran?
Oh, okay.
A veteran, the most important piece of paper that a veteran would ever have is the DD-214. Yeah. Where is their Social Security cards? They should not be in their wallet. All the important papers that they need. Where are those? Those types of things.
And then if your parents are using devices and phones and whatever,
get their passwords.
people don't have passwords. I have a client whose sister died, and I showed up there, and she says, we can't get into the phone, we can't get into her computer, it's all there.
Right.
But we can't figure it out because we didn't know her passwords. Nobody knew her passwords.
I haven't dealt with that too much. None of my clients are technological.
But it's coming.
It's
Even
coming.
your
I've
your
noticed,
aging clients are using phones more than they ever used to.
They are. Yeah, it's very true.
Okay, so we were talking about the things that you got to know, which is the will and arranging your powers of attorney,
Right.
the
An
burial
attorney to do all
arrangements,
those
and knowing where
things.
your important documents are at.
Right.
Okay. I feel like there's this cultural shift that has happened where young people don't honor their parents as much as maybe in past generations. There's this divide that's happening in society, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think it is happening where you're seeing, grown children estrange themselves from their parents because every parent messes up their children, I guess, or whatever. And so there's this sort of cultural shift away from some of those deep aging relationships between parents and children, and this leaves a vacuum for you and your business. Right. Exactly. I feel like there's a cultural shift in America, just that we, because we are a melting pot, there isn't a lot of deep traditions amongst the population, like in Italian culture. You
live close to your family.
You wouldn't move your parents into assisted care in Italian
You would
culture.
move them into your home.
You move them into your home. I think there's other cultures like this. And so are you seeing that in your business, that there's just tremendous estrangement or divide or lack of grown children wanting to help their parents?
A little bit. Again, I go back to I really don't get clients that have that. They're not in that situation, but I do see it. I see, kids that are my kids' age not wanting to have children. So you're right; they're not going to have anybody to take care of them, and they're not close to their family. So I'm seeing it a little bit, not as much as I think maybe the next set of clients that I get that are just about 10 years younger, I think I'm going to see that more. Right. But I mean, right now, my clients are in their 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm. And people are living longer too, yeah?
They are living longer. My dad will be 90 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so of your clients, what are you seeing in terms of just aging population changes and things like that? I'm curious, are they sharper? Are they more physically? Do you see medication helping prolong life? I'm curious, in your business, is it just quality of life? Is it quality of care? Do you see people thrive in certain environments?
Thriving in certain environments, yes. A lot of people say, oh, I just want to stay in my home to the end, don't move me. But then there's situations that we need to move them, and we move them, and then they thrive even more than they've ever thrived before because they have 3 meals a day, and they get to go and play a puzzle with friends or cards, and they have happy hour, and they have activities. Finally, they have someone that's going to come in and make their bed for them and wash their clothes for them, and it's like they feel like queen bee then. So they really thrive in that environment. So
yeah, it's kind of a double-edged thing, right? Like some people really want to stay in their home because they're just convinced that they're comfortable there, right?
They're comfortable, and I think there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of stigma to nursing homes, of their thought of nursing homes, but there's so much more out there that's actually the very last resort. How about an independent living situation?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can you tell me the difference?
Assisted living or something like that.
What is the difference? What are the stages of that care, the professional care you can get inside a facility?
So
I hate
independent
the word facility.
living, there are facilities that provide 3 meals a day. They usually have services that you can hire there to do your laundry, but you're pretty independent, but you still get meals. You get the social aspect, the activities. I think that's what keeps us alive. During COVID, a lot of people didn't have that, and their mind altered, they changed, or they died because of loneliness. So you got your independent facilities that you live pretty independently, and then from there you have assisted living that they, again, provide the 3 meals a day, all the laundry, they give you the medication, they order the medication. Doctors come in to see you at the facility. You only would go out for specialty or emergencies. The activities, that there's usually a bus that'll take you to your appointments if you need to, that type of thing. They go shopping. And then, of course, there's the skilled nursing facility. The last step would be, and normally those are 2 to a room, and that's the last resort. But to tell you the truth, most of my clients are able to live and die in place, where if they go into an assisted living, we're able to manage them to the end with hospice.
What is hospice care?
Hospice is not what it used to be. There's very few inpatient hospice, and those are designated mainly for people with a lot of pain. But I love hospice, and I love putting people on hospice because they seem to do really well after you bring them on, because there's just a whole nother set of people taking care of you and overseeing you. They do have CNAs that'll come in and bathe the person. They, really monitor the medication. They do more palliative care now. Instead of just sitting there waiting for them to die, they're actually doing things to keep them comfortable. So I love hospice. I think it's a really good thing. And it's paid for by Medicare. Being the financial person, it's paid for by Medicare Part A. But they have to qualify to be that. They really do have to be usually within 6 to 12 months of dying. Yes, at least 6 months.
So people die, it's a fact of life?
Yes.
Yeah. And so once they pass, you get a call?
Yes.
That sounds like what?
2:00 in the morning from hospice saying your client passed away, just wanted you to know. We are calling the mortuary. Is there any family or anybody, any friends or anybody that wants to come and see them before we remove the body? Hospice stays with them then. And then I do whatever I need to. This last situation, I called friends to come in. They all wanted to come in at that, in the middle of the night. That's fine. That's their choice to do that. And then the funeral home comes and gets the body, and then I already have it set up with them on what needs to happen from there. Most of my clients are direct cremation, and then friends or family then can have services. They do their own memorial service or funeral services. And then
the hard work begins, right?
And then the hard work begins. Then, you get either the ashes or the death certificate. And then I am normally the personal representative on their estate, whether they need one or not. I can handle tying up all the loose ends of their investments, their checking accounts, their paying their bills, if they need to. They have final pharmacy bills or caregiver bills or whatever, getting all their bills paid. And I have an attorney that will file the probate, so we'll do a probate if needed. Probate is not expensive.
What is probate?
Probate is when they die, you file a court case and lodge the will. That's another reason why the will is important. Lodge the will and do the probate, which is court probate estate work then begins, where you start closing down their accounts, etc. Mm-hmm. And a personal representative is appointed with a letters of testamentary if there's a will.
So the will is in place,
right,
and somebody dies. They take the will down to the court with a copy of the death certificate. Or who provides a death certificate?
Well, the court doesn't need a copy of the death certificate. You just provide the will and the probate papers.
Okay.
Like I said, I have an attorney that files
Prepares
those
all that
for me. Yeah.
So then you become court-appointed personal representative.
Correct.
And you can do the things you were talking about, which is, take up with the bank and close out their bank accounts and things like this, and file their final tax returns. That all of that has to be handled, right?
It does, yes. And it's always recommended to file a final 1040 tax return, even if they haven't, because that deceases their Social Security number. Because I cannot tell you how many clients that their Social Security numbers have been stolen because they haven't been filing tax returns.
Yeah, even if they're not making much, there's no income, there's no... Yeah, you got to file a final 1040.
And then a 1041, a final tax return. Yeah.
So I'm curious, knowing what you know now about this business that you've built, is there anything you'd have done differently?
Yes, I would have done a lot more. I would have kept up on technology more. Mm-hmm. I am an old-fashioned person that does things by paper, and I wish I would have used more technology. I would have asked questions instead of making assumptions.
You mean of the client and their family?
The client and just situations and family, and just ask more questions.
Be more curious, right?
Yeah, get more facts. Mm-hmm. So, but the technology is probably the biggest thing that I don't do, and I wish I would have done that to start and to grow with that.
Well, it's interesting, knowing what I know about your business, because your business is, people will probably be curious about the money piece of your business, but you bill hourly for your time.
I do.
And so as a client needs your services, they just pay you hourly for whatever it is that you do.
Correct.
If you have to pay their bills for them, you bill the client hourly.
Correct.
If you have to arrange transportation for them to make it to a doctor's appointment, you bill them hourly.
Right.
So really, to be fair, people who you're taking on as clients have to have some assets, right?
They do.
And I'm curious, is there a formula for knowing at what point you take them on, or is it just you know in what kind of health they're in, how much money they appear to have,
right,
and how long that might last them? You have some understanding of that?
Yes. First of all, I don't take any clients that have just Social Security, because Social Security does not allow them to pay me for my services.
Okay.
They can pay for a haircut, or they can pay for a doctor, but they can't pay me for their services. So unfortunately, Social Security is really strict on that. And then after that, I do at the beginning get a good feel for how much they have before I take them on as a client, to make sure that they do have assets in the long run. Now, I've had clients that have gone on to Medicaid, but I have gotten them set up in a facility, and it doesn't really take a lot of time to do that once they have nothing to manage, right? So then I take them on, I keep them on even though they're on Medicaid, because I have an obligation to do that in my heart, to do that. I don't drop them at that point because they would have no one.
Right.
So I do keep them on, but there isn't really any criteria. I've been, God has provided very well for me, and I have just been very fortunate in the clients that I've had, that they've been able to have the finances to pay me.
Right. So when somebody passes away and they have a sizable estate that's with no, or really no heirs, where do you usually see the money going? Or how in theory, if they've directed that money properly, they're telling you where they'd like it to go.
Right.
What if there aren't directions? Where do you see the money going?
That's why a will is so important.
Do they give it to charity? Do they give it to animal shelters?
A lot of them do. A lot of them already have charities and ministries that are compassionate about. A lot of them give to animals, Foothills, Friends of Foothills community, the Foothills Animal Shelter. Food banks. I have a lot of clients that give to food banks, homeless shelters, that type of thing.
Yep.
But they usually already are donating to them ahead of time, so they're already in their will of who they want to go to.
Yeah. But people are good about this. They kind of tell you where they want their money to go.
And that's some of the things that I ask them from the very beginning is those types of questions, is to really understand what their passions are so that I make sure that I take care of them from the beginning to the end the way they would want it to happen. But a lot of, because my clients don't have family or distant family, so they give part of that. One of my clients just had friends, and she just had 5 friends, and she divided it out equally between the 5 friends. And how cool, because they didn't know.
Sure, right. A little surprise windfall in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so interesting. And so besides, I think I got the point that everybody needs a will. So I think the best piece of advice is easy, right? Which is be more prepared.
Right.
And then I guess maybe in closing, I have a question. What is the language you would use with older people and their families to make them more aware? I feel like a lot of people are like, my parents don't want to talk about money. They don't want to talk about end of life. They don't want to talk about death. I don't know where my parents' stuff is at. I don't know what they want with their money.
But they'll tell me everything.
So in some ways, maybe
a professional
that is,
person.
Yeah, bring somebody in. Okay, so I think in summary, what you're saying is, if you have a parent who doesn't want to share with you their end of life wishes, they don't want you to know how much money they have, they don't want to share with you where their papers or passwords are at, maybe that is a sign that you should involve somebody.
A professional, right? Or just keep talking with them and letting them know how important it is, and maybe give them some, well, we don't want this to happen where I don't know anything about you or what you want, what your wishes are. I want to do what you want to do. I want to provide for you well, but I need to know certain things, and just really sit down and have a heart-to-heart. I think when people know how serious it is, then they really do open up and share.
Yeah, so it's time to call a family meeting.
Yeah. Almost an intervention. We got to have some serious talks here, Mom, Dad, about what's going to happen, and let's just do it once. Let's get it all out on paper so I know what you have and where things are at. And we have to do this. We just have to.
Yeah.
And then you can go about doing your business again, whatever you want to do. And I think children don't spend time with their parents to see where their deficits are. You really have to sit down and talk with someone for about an hour to find out if they are there cognitively and if they are not doing well. Get in their house, or have they become a hoarder? Spend time with your folks so you really know what's going on.
Yeah. What's next for you? You going to keep doing this for a little while, or what's your plan?
Nope. I am hoping to sell my business and then go back and work for it for a couple years to train the new person, because I want someone that is as compassionate and an advocate for my clients. I want someone that's going to take and run with that. And I want to continue to work that. I have a lot up here.
Yes.
And every client has a different situation that I've learned. Different types of investments, different types of everything. I've even had 2 clients that weren't dead, but Social Security and Medicare deceased them. So what do you do? So
you got to bring them back to life.
I have to bring them back to life. I have a new thing, a new item for my resume. Yeah, so
resurrecting the dead.
Yeah, resurrecting the dead. So I'm wanting to pass the torch, but yet help that person and carry on and start growing my business again.
Well, thank you for coming. What an interesting thing it is that you do, and it's this is a reminder for me that when my kids ask me what they should be when they grow up, that you just never know what will be put at your feet,
right?
And the path for which you will find your way.
And it's important for our children, our even my grandchildren, to understand that there are elderly in the world. My kids are both passionate about the elderly because I schlepped them with me to the nursing homes and the assisted livings and had them do errands for them when they were of that age.
Yeah.
And now my son is on the board of directors for the Honor Flight because he's a veteran. So, and he's as passionate about the elderly as I am. So that's neat.
Wow, cool. Thank you for your son's service.
Thank you. Both of my boys are in the military.
Yeah, that's right. And thanks for your time today, Julie.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.